There we go. All right. So thank you, everyone, and good morning. And thank you for joining my May South Coast Veterinary Management Solutions webinar. I'm super excited to be able to do these and actually have a few lined up for the next few months. So we've got some great topics coming up I'm really excited about. So for those of you who are attending live right now, we'll get a CE certificate. I've been checking you off my list, so you should be good to receive that. If you have any questions for our speaker today, feel free to interrupt her. She's totally fine with that. You can throw the message in the chat and then I can read it to her, or you can unmute yourself and ask her directly, depending on how you want to work that. So again, I am doing this live with all of you who are attending. For those of you who are watching on my YouTube channel later, you've obviously found it, South Coast Veterinary Management Solutions or South Coast Veterinary Manage 263. If you'd like to follow more of my presentations and webinars, please follow my YouTube channel. If not, you're welcome to still get my emails. That's what we do too. So today's speaker is Rhonda Bell. She's got a lot of initials after her. I know CVPM and then CDMP and CCFP and some other things. I don't know.
PCM.
Thank you,
PCM's the other
PCM
one.
Digital. I remembered that one. So Rhonda is a good friend and colleague I've known for many years. We've had a lot of fun adventures together, and I'm very, very excited to have her come today and talk to you about social media. Social media is her jam and her business. She is the owner of Dog Days Consulting and brand management and reputation management. So I'm thrilled to have her on today. So I'm going to go ahead and let Rhonda take it away and start this this webinar today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. I love doing your webinars. So thank you for having me back. It's been a while since I think it was like in the very, very beginning. Maybe I did one for you.
Yes.
But anyway, I wanted to invite your attendees to, like you said, jump in if they've got a question. Don't wait till the very end to ask me a question. There's a good chance I may not remember what I was referring to. And so if you stop me then, I've got a better chance of really giving you a good answer. If I don't have an answer in the moment, then I will certainly get in contact with you and email you and make sure you get the answers that you're looking for. So I wanted to make sure that my screen is sharing and that you can see what I see. Um, is it still sharing, Melissa?
I see a very old TV.
Okay, and then I just moved over to my About Me slide. So I wanted to introduce myself really quickly. My name is Rhonda, like Melissa said. I have been in vet med for 20 years. I had to update some of my outlines because I had it for like it was 15 years, and I was doing some mathing the other day, and I was like, oh man. So yeah, I had to change my numbers. But I am now a small business owner and consultant, practice manager for a lot of years, managed small animal practices in Arizona and California, and moved around a little bit because my husband was military. He's now a retired Marine. And so we live in Texas. And after I left full-time practice management, I started my own consultancy. And I had to look in the industry of what we were really bad at doing in vet med. And I personally was really bad at the marketing. I just didn't dedicate the time to do it. And I knew that there was a place where we could use digital to our benefit to push our businesses forward. And so that's where I went back to school, got some additional training, got some additional certifications, and kind of married that passion that I have for business building. I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I love side hustles and building businesses and helping people do that, as well as vet med. So that's kind of how I got to be this mishmash of who I am. So that's a little bit about me. I want to get started and I want to get into this, the thing that you guys are all here for. So we're going to be talking about three main components to building an authentic brand. Now, I really push in my own consultancy authenticity. I am not one of those marketers that just does outlandish, crazy things just I'm not the crazy, wild marketer that just says weird things just to get people's attention. I would rather be working on clients who want to build relationships with their client bases. It doesn't matter if you're a veterinary practice, it doesn't matter if you're a consultant, it doesn't matter who you are, what even industry you're in. If you are in it for building relationships and long-term business growth and management, then that's who I work with. And that's kind of how I teach. So I'm only telling you that so that way you can understand my take and how I approach this stuff. So if you're looking for outlandish, crazy, strange car salesman kind of stuff, not me. That's just not what you're going to get. So we're going to talk about laying the foundation and building a brand that stands out. A lot of us have a lot of competition now, Independents have to compete with corporates. Consultants have to compete with other new thing every day. Business owners are starting multiple businesses within the same practice four walls. So there's a lot of things happening. So being able to stand out in a busy, noisy digital space is really important. And the best way to do that is through transparency and authenticity. Then we're going to talk about spreading the word. How do you do it? And how do you do it on a budget? A lot of people can't hire people like me to do your social media marketing or to be a brand consultant and teach you how to do it for yourself. I get that. You know, starting out, I couldn't do it either. And it's a normal thing. So I want to make sure that when you leave today, that you've got some starting points of things that if all else fails, you can at least Google it and find out more and learn how to do it. But I also want to invite you to email me. I'm happy to answer questions. I do it all the time. Just quick little questions about how do I do this? How do I do that? Or what platform do you like for this? That sort of thing. I'm happy to help with that as well. Then we're going to talk about building those relationships and turning clients into your advocates. I also want to mention how to turn your employees and your staff into advocates and have them doing some of that marketing for you. So you've got a lot already in place. We just have to realign what those things are and how to get them to work together to be cohesive and to actually put a marketing program together. So when we talk about laying the foundation, I broke this into three different sections or three different steps on how to lay a foundation. We're going to talk about your why. And I know that's one of those phrases that is getting really old school now. People are using it quite a bit, but I want to use it in just that. I want you to remember why you're doing this. You have to be able to draw on something. You have to remember that passion that you had or that idea that you had, because when you get tired or you get lazy or you don't want to do it, you've got to draw on your why. I have to draw on it all the time because there's times where I'm just sitting there after hours and hours of creating content where I can't think of one more thing. And I just have to go, okay, why did I do this in the first place? Like why? And not in a negative way, but just the remind yourself, why did you do this? The second step is crafting a memorable brand message. So it's something that stands out, something that's different. So we're going to talk about what that is and how to do that. And then we're going to talk about consistent brand identity. That's not necessarily posting every day on Facebook. Consistency is, what do your emails sound like? What do your text messages sound like? What does your on-hold messaging sound like? What does all of that packaged together sound like? And does it represent who your practice is or who your business is? So that's the kind of brand consistency that I look at and that I want you to look at and think about. So let's get into that why. So again, it's a very basic question, and I would love it if some of you would type in the chat and answer it for me. But why did you start your business? Why did you decide that this is what you were going to do? Whether you have a practice, whether you have a consultancy, whatever your business is or whatever your career path is, why did you decide to do that? And in that, when we're talking about it, I want to know what problem you were going to try to solve. So for me, I started this business because I knew that I personally, as a practice manager and a CVPM, I was not good at being consistent with the marketing. I just knew that people had pets and they were going to come in. And I kind of counted on that and banked on that. But I didn't spend a lot of time building a strategy or a consistent plan for making sure that we continue to get those clients in the door or that we were maintaining that relationship once we got them in the door. I just banked on the fact that you got a pet, you got to see us. And that's not the way to do this. And I'm acknowledging that that was a very lazy approach, but I had really good excuses because I think we all know how busy veterinary practices get. So I'm not throwing shade on managers who continue to do that. I am saying I acknowledge that that was a problem. And that's what led me to really focusing on my business and what I want to do. And that problem was I help managers find time for marketing by creating systems that are easy, things that are easy to do, or making you think about things that you might not have been thinking about before that are easy fixes. So that's the problem that I'm hoping that I'm solving for my clients. A lot of them don't know how to fix things on their website. They don't know how to put a registration form, or they don't know how to get a button to work. Those are things that I sat down and I figured out and I learned how to do. And so I can help them figure that out, or I at least know where the answers are. Because a lot of times you've got practices who have issues with their website, or their email program or whatever, and they don't have the first clue. So it gets pushed to the backside because they don't know how to tackle it. And it's just too time consuming in that moment. So that's where people like me come into uh, helpfulness, I guess, is because I know those answers and I found an area that I could fit in, that I was passionate about, that I love, and I can help my clients solve those problems. So that's how I make their lives better, by taking away some of that stress, taking away some of that strain, taking away some of that worry. They want to know how to get a button on their website that says that they're going to be doing, registrations for an upcoming webinar or whatever. No problem. I can easily do that. Let's get that taken care of. Or we want to change the domain URL, or, any number of things that need to be updated. I don't know how to update a blog, that sort of thing. So that's how I make their lives better. I take away those little digital marketing annoyances that are very big in the moment, and I help deal with those. So I got a couple of answers here that I want to look at. Let's see. Autumn is independent and she wants to make her, yeah, have the ability to do what makes her happy in the industry. Absolutely. I love doing that too, Autumn, because I like being able to focus my energy on the space that I feel the strongest. And that way I feel like I have a better impact and I can really be the change maker that I want to be in the industry. I think we all know there's a lot of change that can be welcomed in the industry. And so I really want to spend the time and space and energy really focusing on building some positive change in the industry. So, Liz, I don't own a practice, but I've worked in human health the bulk of my career until transition to animal health 2020. Oh, I love that. Yes, it's similar, but it's also very, very different. I was at a dermatologist's office the other day for my dad. He was having some skin cancer removed from his face, and we were talking about some of the hardships that they were experiencing in their practice. And this dermatologist, he's a specialist oncologist, he was floored that we had similar issues. And it was relating to insurance. And he said, well, insurance is a lot easier in the veterinary space. I said, well, we don't have the same insurance in the way that you do. And so we were commiserating about things. And he said that their insurance actually locks their prices, so there's only so much that can be charged, so on and so forth. And he said that veterinary medicine has it way easier. And I was just like kind of laughing at him. And I said, if we've got it way easier, we just have it way different. And so it's not always the same. Human doesn't always translate. We have different issues, but we definitely have similar stresses and strains. Nicholas, you're not the owner, but ultimately you want to play a bigger role in developing and building a new practice to help the community. Oh, I love that. I've opened a practice in Arizona. I was the practice manager coming in before as a CVPM. There was a ton to learn. Oh, so many lessons. So, okay. Thanks for sharing. I really appreciate that, guys. So let's get back into this. So step 2, we need to craft a memorable brand message. So this is kind of like your elevator pitch, your mission statement, your vision statement, your core values, kind of all put together into one. And this is the simplest way that I can teach this. And I feel like I'm talking fast. So if I am talking too fast, just slow me down. But whenever I'm working with my clients, I have a worksheet and there's probably, I don't know, 20 or 30 questions that we answer to get to the root of a brand message. And when I was looking at that and developing this webinar for Melissa, I was looking at going, okay, how can I simplify this down into just brass tacks, like the minimum questions that I would need to ask or that you need to know in order to deliver this brand message. And this would be this: who do you help? How do you help them? And what results are you going to deliver? And that can turn into, with answering those 3 questions, you can rework your mission statement for the entire practice or for your entire business. You can rework your vision statement because you can go, okay, how you help them, the results that you deliver, how are you going to do that? How do you put all that together? What does that look like? Now you've got a vision statement. You can also revamp your core values by looking at that, going, okay, what about these 3 questions? And the answers to these 3 questions will allow us to really solidify who we are in this industry. And what does that look like? What are those words that we can use, or what are those statements that we can say to describe who we are in the industry, in our community, on the street, whatever the case may be. But answering those questions can help you develop those documents. Now, a lot of you, whenever you formed your businesses in the very beginning, you had to write a mission statement. And if it's been 10 or 15 years, or if it's been even more than 5 years, I really encourage you to take that mission statement down off the wall, throw it away, and do it again. Start over, because who you were 5 years ago is not who you are today, and not who your business is today. It might be a good starting point, but it definitely needs to be modernized, refreshed, and revamped. Mission statements are not set in stone. They're not gravestones. They absolutely are living, breathing documents that your team should be living and emulating, that you should be living and emulating yourself. So rewrite it if it's been a while and you haven't done it. So let's talk about what that looks like, and how you can formulate that. So who you help, you just need to clearly define your audience. So for me, I'm a consultant now, no longer in practice. So my audience is veterinary practice owners and veterinary managers. And what do I do to help them? I help them figure out what they need to do to promote their practices online. I help them with their digital presence. Okay, so what kind of results can I deliver? Well, I can help them get out into their community and become the brand authority in their community. So it doesn't have to be tangible numbers results, like I'm going to help save X number of dogs. It's, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I've accomplished. This is what I do. And I have done that. I have helped practices get out into their communities and become their brand authority and the expert in their area for small animal care. People know whenever they need a vet, this is who you go to. That's what we want to build with what you're doing. So an example of that would be at such and such, so Dog Days Veterinary Hospital. We help veterinary, we help, hang on just one second. I'm having a little bit of a technical thing. Did I freeze up? Melissa, am I doing okay?
I can still hear you, and it says step 2 is the screen you're on.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I got this little alert that said that I'm unstable.
Oh, yeah, that happens to me, and then I always go off camera to fix it when I come back on.
Yeah, if it gets worse, I'll catch up. So when you're delivering that mission statement, you can write that as, maybe it is a statement that says, we deliver concierge care to alleviate pet owner stress while delivering excellent patient care. That sort of thing. So really define who it is that you're talking to, what you're going to do to help them, and how you're going to do it. If anyone has any questions about writing that, let me know. You're welcome to email me, or I can get your email address, whatever, and I can send you that worksheet that I go through with my clients. I'd be happy to send that to you, and you can work on filling that out. It's very in-depth, and it really gets into your head, because most of what we do in social media and digital branding is psychology. We have to learn how to get into the heads of our clients, the people we're trying to reach. And in order to do that, we have to kind of get into our own heads and really be clear on what we're trying to do. Okay, so step 3 is establishing that consistent brand identity. This is one of those things that I find most often we overlook one area. We want to make sure that our brand colors and fonts and logos all look great, of course. We want to make sure our brand voice makes sense. So that mission statement, that brand message goes into the brand voice. So the brand voice is the consistent delivery of what we're doing. Do we sound the same no matter who is doing social media for you? Does it sound like the practice? Okay. What is the difference between a mission statement and a brand message? So a mission statement and a brand message are very, very similar. A mission statement might be more business driven, where a brand message might be more emotional or psychologically driven. So as a brand, we are hoping to deliver excellent care, and we want to be seen in the community, so on and so forth, where a mission statement would be they are very similar. I'm botching the description. They are very similar. The mission statement, I think, would also include maybe some of those business opportunities and business metrics that you would want to include. So the brand message would also be or the brand voice, sorry, would also be where you're warm or approachable, professional. Like, what does that sound like? Are you educational? Are you fun? Are you quirky? What is it that sets you apart, that if I were to look at your website or to look at your stuff, would I recognize it? Would I understand it? Would I know it's you pretty quickly? There are a lot of brands where you just automatically look and you know exactly who it is, where, like Nike's got the swoosh, that kind of thing. We know who those brands are because over time they have developed a very consistent brand voice. Everything has that same vibe. That's what I really want to encourage you to do and to look at for your practice is does everything that you're putting out have the same vibe? The signs that you hang on the wall, the signs you hang on the door, emails that go out, reminders that go out, text messages that go out, the on-home messaging that goes out. The other day, I got a call, and my pet had a vet appointment, and it was a reminder call, and it was a call that jumped in and said, 24, Gus has an appointment for vaccines. See you then. And it was just so random, and I was like, what? And I didn't get a chance to, replay this if you didn't hear it. That's all it said is it started with 24, Gus has vaccine appointment. See you then. I was like, well, that's incredibly unhelpful. And it was very robotic and very recorded. So it was definitely not a human. And so what was happening was we had an appointment on the 24th, and they were reminding me that Gus had an appointment. So, but the delivery of that was just very, yeah. And what it told me immediately was nobody's checked to see if that sounds okay. And so that little bit of cohesive attention to detail really matters because it did give me a little bit of a vibe of, okay, they don't care if I really show up or not. Like they've got this automated and they're not really checking in to see if things are working well or what their clients are receiving or hearing or getting from them. And that might not have been a completely fair take on it, but I had to work and make sure, one, that I did have an appointment, that there was nothing wrong with it, and that it did make sense somewhat. I just kind of had to do a little deciphering. So make sure that whenever you're using these technology platforms, that they're actually delivering what you want them to deliver. So test it yourself. Go, either have friends call, have them book appointments, whatever, or you get in there and do it, but test it and make sure that what your clients are seeing is what you want to be seen. And if it's not, call those companies and tell them to fix it. That's what they're there for. That's what they want. They don't want to be represented that way in the industry either. So they want to know that their product is making you look good. So put them to work. You can get someone in the practice to do that. That's also kind of stuff that when you get a brand coach or a brand consultant, that's stuff that we typically do as well as we get in there and talk to those folks, get that stuff fixed for you. So if you have any questions about that, I am happy to answer them. But those are the little things, your invoices, your estimates, all those little things, your morning huddles, everything. Make sure that it's cohesive in terms of how you sound as a brand.
Rhonda, what I was also going to say too is when you're talking about double checking what that weird message that you got, but also double checking that your on hold sound is what you want it to be. Double checking that if you have a voicemail or some type of answering service after hours, like is it
Yep.
still on or is it dead air? Like those are the things that we do once and we forget about. So it's always good, like you said, delegating that. Maybe someone checks it once a month or something.
Right.
See for updates and see if things need to change, especially if you have like the names of your doctors on your voicemail and it's not been updated in 5 years and you have different doctors now or
Right.
things like that's the stuff we forget about. So I love it. I love double checking those things. And
Yeah. Well, and it's easy to get into that set it and forget it or trusting that their technology is working. They may not know either. And so I wouldn't just trust them to make sure that you're sounding good. It's your job to make sure you're sounding good. And again, they may not know. And so, and I suspect with the clinic that I went to, they just didn't know. And whenever I asked the questions to try to find out who it was, and they just kind of got weird about stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll deal with that later.
such a
But
struggle, all these things and you can't help some hospitals because they don't,
yeah,
they should listen to what you're
yeah.
saying. It's hard.
Yeah, it just got weird because it's like most clients don't go in and go, tell me the company that does your reminder calls and your text messaging because it's just normally it's like, what heartworm prevention do you want me to get? So whenever I was kind of getting into it, it was just one of those. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm a consultant at CVPM and I'm actually going to be speaking at AVMA and I'm doing a little research. So I kind of just prefaced it that way a little bit. But yeah, it was a little awkward because then it was just, why? What do you know? What do you want? And so, and I'm definitely not judgy in that way at all. I really just wanted to have an opportunity to say, hey, It didn't sound great. I think it's choppy. Something with the technology may be goofing up. And what I'll probably do is email the manager and just say, hey, I forgot to mention the other day, and just let them know that way. Because I would want to know as a manager, I wouldn't want to be picked apart, but I would want to know if something's not performing the way that I'm paying for it to perform, and if it's making me not sound great. So yep, I guess that goes into that whole accepting feedback also. Whole different talk. So, okay, so let's get into section two if we don't have any more questions about that first one. But section two is about spreading the word and smart marketing strategies. And I'm all about bootstrap and budgeting. So again, I recognize that a lot of people don't have large marketing budgets. We didn't even have a marketing budget. I wasn't allocated that in our budgeting. We had too many other things that were a priority for the practice owners, and we had clients coming to find us. So me really having that need or that big impetus to have a big budget and to be able to focus on marketing just wasn't there because we constantly had clients coming in. So I didn't really spend the emotional energy and the mental energy that I probably should have. So I want to encourage you to do that. And I can help you combat the conversation that you're going to have with some of these practice owners about the budgeting, because there are a lot of cheap, easy, and free ways of doing this that don't require a huge budget. So let's get into what some of those are. I have some tools recommendations. I'm not sponsored by anybody. These are just ones that I literally use in my business and that I have started with from the very beginning as a bootstrap marketer with one tiny little client. And I've kept them because they work. And no matter the size of my company and then the client load, they continue to work. So let's talk about starting with social media. And I want you to pick one or two platforms that you will be the most successful on. And you can do demographics research. I've done lots of demographics research to tell you where your clients are at, where they're spending their time online, what they're doing. The cheat is it's Facebook and Instagram. So you don't have to do that research. You're welcome. I gave you the answer. So make sure that you are spending time posting on Facebook and Instagram. That's where your demographic most likely will be spending time at in the mornings, at lunchtime, and in the evenings when they get off of work. They're going to be scrolling. So if you've got posts that are popping up around lunchtime or in the evenings when people get off of work, they're more than likely going to see you as they're scrolling through their Facebook feed. That's a great time and a great opportunity that even if they don't stop and stare at your post because they don't care about cat diabetes, they at least saw that you are educating. And now you're kind of like an earworm. You got into their head. They remember it. It's there. So we want to make sure that that's what the purpose of your social media does and accomplishes is whenever they need you later on, they're going to remember, oh yeah, my vet does this, or this vet does that. And now I need a vet that can do that. Or they've got a recommendation. They've got a neighbor or a friend or somebody who says, oh my gosh, my cat has diabetes. I don't know what to do. Or I think my cat might. Oh, I know a vet who has done a lot of education on that. So it's not necessarily a one-to-one relationship. It's a one-to-many relationship. We have the opportunity of touching a lot of people with the information we're putting out there. So start with 1 to 2 platforms. You don't have to go out and get on every single one, but definitely start somewhere. I see some questions. Let me catch up real quick. I only got a business Instagram because it would connect directly with my Facebook. Yep. Also updates on my website. So one post updates. Yep, exactly, Melissa. What about a new business that has no budget? How do I find and use those resources? Hang on, Autumn. I'm going to show you because that's exactly what I did. The only thing that I paid for in the very beginning and continue to pay for to this day is Canva, and it's $14.06 a month. So that is absolutely affordable. And with Canva, you can do literally anything. I built a website on it yesterday for a new side hustle I have. So I'll get into that in just a second. So pick your 1 to 2 platforms, ideally Facebook, Instagram to start. I highly recommend some of those other ones. If you've got products and you are promoting your products, you can get Amazon affiliate links to promote those products and push that out from your website. So it's kind of like having your own little online pharmacy, but now you've got an Amazon arm. of that. And you don't even have to carry the products. You can just link to products that you recommend so you don't have to carry them in your practice. Share that stuff on Facebook and Instagram as well. So if someone clicks on that and buys that cat tree because they've got brand new kittens in the household, then you get a little bit of a kickback from that. So it's a little bit of a side hustle tidbit and another way to have consistent messaging and consistent content that goes out that still supports the overall revenue of the practice. Post consistently. My sweet spot is 3 to 4 times a week. So I typically do three, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or I'll do a Monday, Wednesday, and then if there's a holiday, I'll jump on that holiday. So like Mother's Day is coming up, or Memorial Day, things like that. Create a mix of educational posts with entertainment posts with promotional content. Shake it up. Don't always be salesy. In fact, I would really caution you against being salesy at all. You really want to limit the amount of asking versus telling. Telling meaning we're educating, we're offering, we're giving them things, we're giving them information, we're giving them resources, we're giving them things that bond them to us versus how many times we ask for something. Call us, make an appointment, or would you, come in and get a grooming service? So pay attention to how much you ask versus how much you give. Melissa, let's share about appropriate cat carriers. Yes, exactly. So a lot of us in the practice don't have the retail space to have, like, we may have collars or whatever, but maybe we don't have the harnesses or the cat trees for kittens or dog puppy toys, all of those things. You can actually create wish list for new puppies or new kittens or whatever and have those listed. You can create PDFs and have those listed with your Amazon affiliate link. It doesn't cost you anything to become an Amazon affiliate. Create PDFs that are new kitten parent wish list or gift list kind of things, or even do a new kitten parent registry. And that way there's a PDF with clickable links. And anytime anybody clicks on that, they can purchase that product through Amazon and you actually get a little bit of money back. So there's tons of ideas. I'm all about the side hustle and coming up with ways of kind of just different income streams within the practice that don't require a lot of retail space. And none of that, other than paying for the Canva membership, cost anything. Use an Excel spreadsheet to organize your efforts, and that way you kind of know what you're doing. So I actually gave you, here is my content calendar for dog days from January. So this is literally ours. So what I did is I posted the due date. So this is the due date for my team. I wanted it made by January 8th. And we were going to post it on January 22nd. And then what you see next is the actual wording that we're going to use. So posting content is only one part of the strong online presence. Engagement is where the magic happens. So if you go back and look on the 22nd of January, there's a good chance that we use that post. Now, I do make substitutions and my team will make substitutions. If something else has more priority or something came up, maybe I've got a speaking engagement, something we want to talk about that we want to swap out that post, we'll do that. But we plan it out and that way we don't have to come up with it on the fly. And so we plan it out a month in advance. If anything, plan it out 2 weeks in advance. But do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday pattern. You can see it there. I've got Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's the pattern. In that copy that I wrote, the copy is the wording. In that, I include hashtags. So anything that makes sense. I also always include my business name, Dog Days Consulting. Include your practice name. Also include your location. So hashtag Floresville, Texas. Make sure that people know where you're located. That's called geolocating. And so you can go back and search in Instagram by those hashtags and you'll pop up. So we want to make sure that we're using relevant hashtags. Don't pop up on a bunch of hashtags that don't really matter. So if you are a veterinary practice and you're using hashtags, don't pick a hashtag about blanket knitting. That doesn't relate to what you're doing, and you'll actually lose authority and lose credibility by popping up in those searches because you picked up and jumped on, you kind of hijacked a hashtag that really doesn't belong to your genre. So be mindful of those kinds of behaviors. I like to give myself 2 weeks to create the content between creation and scheduling. That gives me time to change if I need to change. If something in the industry happens, I can switch course if I need to switch course. I plan it out a month in advance. Then we'd go into creation mode in those 2 week windows. Now, when we sit down to actually create, either myself or my teammate Michael will create the content based on what I said. So you're an authority in your field. Now let's showcase it. I'm looking at the Monday, the 27th. He'll go and look at that and go, okay, what image fits most with that? What's going to look best with that? So maybe that's a picture of me speaking at a podium. And so then he'll create a graphic that matches that. Or maybe it's a veterinary practice or a veterinarian talking to a client, something like that, that's going to match what we're trying to say in that message. So we'll map all that out if, for the month. We don't create the graphics until it's time to go into production. That way we don't waste a bunch of energy if we end up not using that post. But it's about a mapping and planning. The really cool thing is when we've got this system in place, we probably spend 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours on this part, this creating this content calendar and coming up with a month's worth of ideas. Then when we go into production, he will produce 2 weeks at a time. So he may spend about 4 hours actually in production, but now he's got 2 weeks worth of content for LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And also what I'm doing in the background is writing the blog articles that go with that. So if you look at it, we've spent 6 hours on social media content creation, and we've got a lot done. And our presence is still there. Our tone is still met. Our brand messaging is still going, and we're being consistent. So you don't spend a ton of time on this, but you still do get a big bang for your buck. Okay. So here we go. Autumn, this is what you were asking about a second ago. So leveraging those free or affordable marketing tools, Canva. Canva has a free membership. I recommend the pro version. You just get way more capabilities and it's still like $14 a month. It's so cheap. I literally built and launched a website yesterday through Canva. It is for my blanket loom business that I have. And so it wasn't a super complicated website. So I wouldn't necessarily do it for a veterinary practice or something that has a lot of technology or moving parts. But if you're looking for a landing page vibe or you're a brand new consultant and you just need a place to send people in the very beginning, a Canva website is a great idea. It has buttons, it's clickable. There's things that you can do within that, but there's tons of resources. I've created sweatshirts, designed the patterns, and then actually had them printed and shipped to me. I've created giant calendars. So I created a year in advance calendar that was specific to me and my company and what I needed. I created it and sent it off to print, and I had it within 7 days. It was incredible. I was totally shocked that I got it so fast, and it might have even been within 4 days because it was pretty shocking how quickly it got to me. I've made coffee cups. I've made social media posts, banners. We've done YouTube thumbnails. We've done videos that we've then put on YouTube. There's just a million things you can do on Canvas. So I highly, highly, highly recommend it. For your email marketing, you can, from the very beginning, if you're super small, you can keep it all within a Gmail and send people out. I don't recommend that because the minute you start to grow, you'll find how limited you actually are. So moving over to a MailChimp or Constant Contact, they do have some free versions. Again, the free versions are very, very limited, but you can at least get started and you can work with that for quite some time before you have to move up. And I think MailChimp, the last time I checked, the minimum membership was like, if you have 500 people, I believe it was, you don't have to upgrade to the next level. So it takes a little while to build that many. So you've got some room to have those free accounts and to start email marketing. Email marketing is simply writing a newsletter, sending it out to your list. And I don't care if you've got one person on your list, like Melissa using this webinar, she collects those emails. She's now able to send out emails to people. Now, I recommend, like what Melissa does and what many people do, some do not, don't turn this into a spammy opportunity. Send out relevant information that matters and that matches their interests. So if they're interested in webinars, send out newsletters about webinars. This is not an opportunity for Melissa to start selling shoes or selling something completely random, right? This is to be respectful of that list and your time, because what will happen is if she starts sending out random stuff about lipstick and tennis shoes, you're going to drop her and you're going to absolutely say, unsubscribe, don't talk to me again. You as a potential client or potential recipient of her services in the future, maybe you're no longer interested because she pissed you off. So don't do that to your clients as well. They have a lot of people and a lot of practices that they can choose from. So we want to be very respectful of their time and very respectful of their inbox. So that the same applies to you that applies to them. And then I also recommend using that Google Business or your Facebook listing as well. Those are great locations for doing posts, excuse me, and to keep up with what's going on with your reviews and your reputation. So whenever we're talking about reputation, I want to make sure that you understand that it's not just your overall reputation and whether or not people in the community like you. It's how do people feel about you digitally? What's your review numbers look like? Are you watching Yelp? Are you watching your Google business profile? And even on your Facebook recommendations, are you watching and keeping an eye on what you're doing and what people are saying about you? Go in there and look at what people are saying in your mentions. Where are you being mentioned? What are they saying about you? How important is that to know what's being said? Because you can start addressing some of that stuff. Maybe you can't address it directly, but you can start talking about it in some of your social media content to start counteracting maybe some of those things that might not be as flattering as what you would want it to be. Do I have any questions about that so far?
I have just a question about, do you have a preference between MailChimp or Constant Contact?
Personally, I like Constant Contact. I will say that I have an affiliate relationship with them. So the reason I got an affiliate relationship with them is because I like them so much more. And I found that I was recommending them more and more. They just are a little bit better in how the user interface. They weren't as clunky for me. Maybe it's just how my mind works, but it was easier for me to figure out how to move more swiftly through Constant Contact than it was for MailChimp. And MailChimp I've used and I still use for some clients because they came with that account. And so I use it. It's just not as intuitive, not as easy to use or simple to use in my mind than what Constant Contact. And for when I did a apples to apples comparison, Constant Contact gave me a little bit more capability and some of the creative freedom more so in at the lower level, the lower pay level that MailChimp did. So they weren't exactly equal. I could do a little bit more with Constant Contact than I could with MailChimp. But honestly, you probably wouldn't know the difference. I use it a lot for a lot of people, so I'm constantly comparing between the two. But as a consumer, if you're looking for a simple, easy to use, they both are. Constant Contact was probably a little more so for me. So that's why. And
Okay.
that's how I got there. So
Yeah.
not no shade on anybody, but just my thought process.
Okay, cool. Now I have over 600 emails that I'm able to send out
Sweet. There
information.
you go.
Great. But it got really mad at me when I tried to do it the last couple times ago and I had that many because it says this is too much for my Gmail and it kicked it back. And I feel like I'm getting more rejections lately with
Yeah.
having her. And I really don't want to have to break it into three different emails that I'm doing. So I'll look into the Constant Contact. Thank you.
Yeah, I really like it. The thing that, going back to that brand consistency and that brand messaging, just because you have that many people at this point, I think you automatically need to consider having a professional email management service. It just lends more credibility and more brand consistency and that brand aesthetic to the people you're delivering that message to, right? So if you've got 1,000 people on your list, but you're still using Gmail, there's a little bit of a mental disconnect in terms of what people could be receiving from you mentally about who you are and where you're at in the industry. So, what does it look like? How am I being perceived and how am I showing up? Always ask yourself that. But I think because you're at that level, Melissa, I would definitely consider doing a MailChimp or a Constant Contact. The other reminder that I have for creating content for either through Canva or whatever is a lot of your vendors and your providers offer this. I know I've worked with Pause Time for years and years, and they create a lot of social media content for their on-home messaging clients. You can just go on their Facebook group. They have a private group for their clients, and they provide a lot of social media content. All the products and services that you have in your clinic, well, not services maybe, but your products for sure, those manufacturers have social media content for those. So ask them for it. You don't necessarily have to go hunting for it. Ask your vendors when they come in, say, hey, I need a bunch of social media assets for these products that you've got on my shelves, and have them start sending that to you and just organize it in a way in, Google Drive or whatever. And the people who are doing your social media, make sure they know to pull out whenever you're doing your promotional post, pull out some of that information. And that way you're not creating everything from scratch. You're just kind of using what somebody else has already created and done a really good job with. Okay. So the other big thing is when we're building authenticity, we want to do that through the use of authority. And in order to build brand authority, we have to create content. People have to know who we are. And this is where I get the most looks on, oh, every bit of what you're just about to say sounds really time consuming. This part is, and I'm not going to lie. There are some tools out there. There's the use of AI now for helping write blog posts, and I am a fan of AI. I don't shy away from it at all. I think it is a two-sided sword, so you have to make sure that you're very careful with the information that's going out. Make sure that you're editing it. I use AI for starting points, for rough drafts, and then I go through and I add myself to it. I change the wording, I write, and I add more of what I feel and think into that. But I definitely use it as a starting block to get me past that white page, the blank page of just, oh my gosh, where do I begin? So I use it quite a bit whenever I'm writing outlines for blog articles or outlines for articles for magazines. I also use it quite a bit for writing outlines for presentations. So it gets me started and then I fill in the blanks. So you can save time with AI writing blog posts for your practice. The reason why I'm a big fan of blog posts for practices is it changes your website. So when your website gets stale or stagnant, nothing changes on it. Google starts to get bored with you and they move on. And so you may not show up as highly in the search listings. So when you write a blog post, Google has to go, oh crap, they just did something again. So now I got to go over there and search it and see what they did. And so they send their bots out and they little spiders and they crawl it and they determine what's new. And is it relevant? Does it make sense to this website? Okay, this is relevant. This is good. They're creating new content. It's fresh. It's good. We want to send fresh results to the people doing searches. So we're going to make sure these people show up. Okay, so there's your down and dirty SEO. That's how SEO works, right? So blog posts are the cheap and easiest way to do that, that you can control the outcome of putting that information in there, making sure that it's searchable, and updating your website. It's hard to update some of the other things. Your about page may not change because it's the same doctors you've had for 10 years. The team may not change, it may change, things like that. But blog posts are things that you can do every week, every 2 weeks, every month, whatever your cadence needs to be or you want it to be. But it makes you searchable and it makes you show up in those search rankings. So I'm a big, big fan of blog posts in that form. Not a big fan of writing them. It is a book report. I'm not going to lie. I do it. I struggle with it as well because it can get to be tedious, but I absolutely stick with it. And I recommend all my clients do that because it's a very powerful, powerful tool. Not only that, when you write a blog post, say you write a blog post about heartworm, now you go back in that blog post, you can go run it back through AI and say, hey, create some social media posts about this blog article that I wrote. Or you can come up with blog posts or social media content yourself. And now you've got social media to write and to create and to push out related on that blog post. And now you link it. Hey, you want to read more about this? Go check out my blog post. And now you send them back to your website. Well, when they're reading on the blog post on the website, there's a button on the top of your page that says book an appointment with me. So we've gotten them off of social media, we've taken them to your website, and we've shown them, oh, you've got an online pharmacy. Oh, I can easily book an online appointment. Oh, cool. Now we've reconnected those dots and made you that authority. So huge, huge fan of blog posts. Short videos also, that lends that personal, we're real people, see what we do, see how we feel about this, see what we love. There's a ton of content out there right now. Veterinary practices really finally taking up with this. We've been recommending it for years and years, but it was kind of hard because people are shy and they don't know what to do and they're afraid of looking silly. And I think now with veterinary practices in particular, we've kind of embraced the funny and embraced the awkward, and we understand that no one is a perfect actress or actor. So create a video and share with the world what you do, what sets you apart. Now, measure that up against, does this go with our brand message? Does this follow our brand voice? Is this who we are? We don't want to do something completely off the wall and we've got a whole different vibe in the practice. That's catfishing. We don't want to do that. So make sure that it aligns with your brand and aligns with who you are and who you want to be in the industry. But I highly, highly recommend short video. The algorithms really rank video highly. People have a very short attention span. It takes about 7 seconds to get someone to stay on your content. 3 seconds, they will decide whether or not they're going to, and they've already scrolled off. 7 seconds to keep them. If you get them to 30 seconds, it's a miracle. You've got to really have something pretty engaging. People have the attention span of a flea. So we want to make sure that our short video content has something that is entertaining. If you get in there and you start having this long video about the dangers of heartworm, I don't know that you're necessarily going to keep people because it's probably a pretty boring topic, especially if you've got a boring doctor delivering it. So be creative with what you're doing, be exciting, be fun, but be educational and make sure that you're staying aligned. And then I also recommend for my veterinary practices and my consultants and like with, Melissa, host webinars, host workshops. Veterinary clinics can host workshops. You can come in and teach pet parents how to bring their pets to the vet. And not only that, encourage them to bring their pets to the vet. You're doing a lot of work there. One, you're teaching the parents what to do to best prepare to get their pets to come into the vet. You're socializing those pets and getting them used to coming to the vet where nothing happens to them that's bad. And you're building that relationship with that client that they understand that it's really important to you that this matters and that you're doing something about it. So I encourage you to do some research and come up with a list of different kinds of workshops. It doesn't even have to be anything major. It could be a 30-minute meeting after you close in the evening or an hour or whatever, talking about, various things. Maybe you teach how to do nail trims, whatever the case may be. But doing those little webinars, doing those little workshops, doing the little Q&As that you kind of guide the discussion, guide the topic is really important. And it really is helpful. And it can build that authority. It can also get people to bring guests with them that may not be a patient at that time, but maybe they bring their pet to you later because now you've kind of broken that barrier of getting them through the front door. They're already acquainted with you. So I highly recommend webinars and workshops. Okay, so building the relationships and turning client connections into your best advocates. This goes into that reputation management, but also getting them to do some of your marketing work for you. It also goes into asking for reviews and referrals. It is not a bad thing to ask for a positive review. Just tell them, like, hey, could you help me out and give us a positive review? People will do it. They have to be reminded. They don't think of it. So happy clients don't just come back. They tell their friends about you. They leave great reviews. They help your business grow. So let's enlist them and enlist your happy team members to help you build and nurture those relationships. So one, in order to do that, we have to deliver an exceptional client experience. I'm a huge, huge fan of that. I'm one of the founding members of NAVR. And so we work with the veterinary receptionist and we advocate for veterinary receptionists on exceptional client experiences. Then again, ask for reviews and referrals. Speak, say the words. People want to help you. They just don't think about it. And then as we're doing all of this and we're keeping all of our stuff, in the forefront, we want to stay top of mind with people. We want to remind them that we're there. That's the whole point of doing this. And so maybe doing some of those emails and newsletters and text check-ins like, hey, we just wanted to check in on so-and-so and see how he's doing since his last visit. Hope you're having a great day. We're not asking for anything. It's literally a check-in. So stay top of mind. So let's get into what some of that stuff looks like. So delivering that exceptional client experience, there are so many. It was really hard for me to reduce this to 3 buttons because I have like a list of, I don't know, 50. And I'm sure each of us that work in this industry that have all had something to do with the client experience, we've got our own list. And so we could compile it and it would be endless. But for me, if I had to really, really, really narrow it down, being responsive, not ignoring emails, not ignoring phone calls, getting back to people on time, just the little things that show that I matter, that's important. And that's that relationship builder. So being responsive, going the extra mile, making sure that I can do this. This is the bare bones minimum, but what if I did this, this, and this? What if I carried that bag of food out? What if I made sure that I sent that email off and then I text you to say, hey, I just sent that email. Want to make sure that you get it and want to make sure that you get a response. If you don't, make sure you get back to me. I'm going to make sure I chase that down for you. It's going the extra mile, not just the, yeah, I did it. and moving on. And then keep your promises. If you make brand promises in your social media, on your websites, any of those things, keep your promise. This was really important. The other day, I had to deal with a really interesting situation. It was a little bit of could have been conflict driven. I had to navigate it very carefully, but I hired a new air conditioning service. They were going to come in and do maintenance. And on their website, they say, hey, we do dryer lint cleaning with every new service that we sign up. And so whenever they came to clean out our air conditioning ducts, I said, hey, did y'all get access to the dryer? Because it said y'all were going to do that. And they're like, oh, no, that's extra. And I said, no, it was on the website. It's part of your little package. And they said, well, can you show me where it says that? And they kind of started getting defensive. And I said, yeah, sure. And so I actually grabbed the website, took a screen grab and showed them. And I said, look, it says right here. And they said, oh, that's a daily floating thing that's a special discount and it doesn't show up every day for every client. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. I said, well, it was there whenever I signed up because that was one of the things that I was interested in. And is there today. So I would like for you to honor it. And they said, well, I don't know. I'll have to ask my manager. I don't know if we can honor that because there's no note that it was there on the day that you signed up. So they immediately had a really awkward floating discount situation, which I told them, I said, a discount should be applied across to everyone. That's a lot of tracking and a lot of extra work to keep up with floating discounts, which was kind of a strange thing, but whatever. So, and then I said, well, I was able to show you and prove it. So I would like it. If not, not a big deal. Thank you for coming in and doing the AC events and just let them know that I was a little disappointed in the turnout of this really great start to this relationship. So the manager calls me and says, okay, we're not going to be able to honor it because it wasn't there on that day that you signed up. And I said, well, I think it was because my husband actually mentioned it. I said, but that's fine. If that's going to be your stance, then that's okay. I said, I'll hire another company to come in and do the dryer cleaning. And she said, well, we do it. It's just an extra charge. I said, no, I'd probably hire a separate company to come do that. Because at this point, I'm not about to give them the business for doing that, especially with the way that this has kind of gone down. And I was very happy with the other services they provided. I'm not dissatisfied. I'm disappointed because this promise wasn't kept. And so then they had another manager that was above that manager call me and said, okay, we're going to do it. But then it kind of felt it was under duress. So this whole situation could have just been so much more impactful and different if they really would have focused more on my client experience versus we don't want to do that because it's going to cost us money and what's in it for them versus what's in it for me. That's what I'm saying is be mindful of their experience, but also keeping the promises. And then I'm going to wrap this up really quick. I know we're getting over on time here. Ask for those reviews and referrals. Get your employees to ask to just simply state it. Also make it easy for them to do it. Use a little QR code. You can get a QR code link directly to your Google listing that can make it super simple for people to leave reviews. Put that link on your estimates, on your invoices, on emails that go out, any of that stuff that goes out to people. Ask them to leave a positive review. And if they don't have anything, if they feel like they can't leave a positive review, ask them to call you and talk to you about it, that you really want to know because you want to fix anything that's not giving them the best feeling or the best experience with your clinic. And then stay top of mind. Clients might not need your services every day, but we want them to know and think of you when they do. So send your regular emails, stay on top of your social media, network within the community, network at other events where they're at, but stay top of mind and make sure that they know that you're busy and active. And then I'm going to wrap this up. So clients don't want perfect. They just want you to be real and they want you to be present. So start small, stay consistent, celebrate your growth. It is a slow process, but it is one that is totally, totally worth it. And then I forgot to mention earlier, but I have a QR code here. I wrote a workbook for you guys that is links to some content ideas that I wrote that I came up with and I updated for 2025. Lots of social media posts based on the month. So I encourage you to use that QR code. It's content that connects. And so I find that it's useful. And if you find it's useful, then I'm happy for you to have it. But you can also email me and ask me any questions you want. So Autumn, one last question. What do you do when content? Let's see, what do you do for content when you're just starting and don't have any? You literally have content talking about that. You are a new business and you're launching. So talk about your process, talk about some of the things that you're trying to solve. You can relate to other business owners because they've been there, they've done that. So go back to that time and space where this is where I'm at right now. These are some of my concerns. How do I start marketing? How do I start coming up with content ideas whenever I'm just brand new or I haven't been doing it for a while, and answer those questions for them. So that's where you start, is start with what you don't know and start filling in those gaps. So for me, I talk about the storytelling. I have to rebuild my business. I have to rebuild it all the time. They have to rebuild theirs. You're building yours for the first time. So talk about that story and what you're going through and some of the emotions attached to that, some of the work that you're doing, some of the programs that you're using. Talk about how you're spending your day. What did you do today that accomplished a goal towards launching that business? That's all content. Those are all things that people want to know about. And in particular, think about the things that you do that maybe other potential clients in the future would look at it and go, "Oh, I need to know that." Or, "Oh my gosh, I wasn't even writing blog articles. Now I know I need to be doing that." Um, as a new business owner and someone who's launching a business, writing blog articles about your journey and your process absolutely will kind of open that door for you, and you'll start seeing content from there. But it's definitely, you've got a lot of content. It's just learning to identify what that is. So I hope that helps. I know I didn't give you any specific answers, but it's hard because you're in your place. But think about what new businesses need from you and start talking about that. Who are they? What do they want? And how are you going to give it to them? And if you can answer those questions, then you can start creating content about that. And I think that wraps me up, Melissa.
Yes, you are just a couple minutes over. So
I know. Sorry about that.
no, that's okay. It's because we were engaging with our audience, which so thank you. So if there's any last minute questions, feel free to unmute or store it in the chat. Or otherwise, we're going to go ahead and let Rhonda go on about her day. Uh, Thank you so much, Rhonda, for coming and presenting this webinar. I wanted to add one fun video tip when you were mentioning the video. I don't even remember the name of the hospital, which is bad because I should. They had a recruiting video on Instagram, and it
Oh,
was
yes.
amazing. It
I
was so
remember. Oh, who was that? It was really good.
no.
It was recent too,
It was really recent. They literally had the practice owner or the medical director talking about their hospital. So like we are ABC Animal Hospital, we offer great services and we have a great team and we believe in encouragement, da da da, whatever. And then she's in the middle of the screen talking, and then behind her is just ultimate chaos going in that practice. So you just see people getting tied to a chair. You see a cat running amok on the top of the cabinets. It was like everything chaotic behind her while she's narrating this, why you should want to be a veterinarian.
everything's peaceful and zen and
It
beautiful, and
was
it's
so
just pure hell
amazing.
in the background.
Oh my gosh, it was so inventive. And
So true.
that ad is going to hire the doctor that fits them. And I think that probably fits their personality, which is where you
Right.
got to make a video that fits your personality, but it was amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're funny and quirky, then play on that. Have some
Oh,
fun with that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All
But
right.
I want to thank you for having me. I have so much fun doing this, and I have so many things I end up wanting to say, and 1 hour is not enough time. So I felt like I had to talk really fast.
Well, yes, thank you so much for everyone who came today. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. I will upload it to my YouTube channel. So if anyone wants to show it to someone else. Rhonda, are you able to send me your slide, like the PDF of that?
I will. I
Okay.
will. I'll do that.
So yeah, so she can send me her PDF. So I will send that to everyone who registered for the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So again, my YouTube channel at South Coast Veterinary Manage 263, and my website, South Coast Veterinary Management Solutions. If you